Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Abacus webinar that's going to be about Abacus billing contingency matters today. I hope I said that right. Anyway, my name's Perry Paxton Lafferty, and I'll be your host today as we go through the billing for contingent matter process. Hopefully, everybody can see my screen here it's opened up to the AbacusLaw accounting module. And a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. In our GoToWebinar panel, there is a section for you to submit questions. All right. So while we're going through our discussion here today, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in there. There's also something where you can raise your hand. So I see somebody's got their hand raised. So hello, nice to see you. And but the questions, when you raise your hand, I really don't know the question. So if you could just type it in, I'll be happy to answer them. If we run out of time, we do have a limited amount of time here. You can still submit your questions to webinars@abacusnext.com, and I will be sure to get back to you and answer your questions. Okay. Everybody should know that on the Abacus Next website, there is always a list of upcoming webinars, so you can go ahead and sign up for them there. Every week, we try to have at least two about Abacus, one on the law side and one on the billing and accounting side. And we're always open to new topics. Okay, we're trying to broaden our horizons here and make things a little more interesting than the same old stuff. So if you have a suggestion for a topic for a webinar, please go ahead and submit it for us and see what we can do. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. Obviously, before we actually get into the billing of a contingent case, we want to know how to make sure everything has been set up properly. So we're going to look at a couple different areas here. So I'm coming over under my Matter drop-down menu, and I'm going to click on the first option of Matters. This is really Matter Maintenance. Okay, this is where all the little details are about this matter that came over from AbacusLaw. So when I open this up, here's a list of all my Bill to matters. So I'm going to look up my client I set up for today, and this is going to be Clara Client. So here we are, and I'm going to double click and open up the matter. Now, what you want to be sure you have done is you have on the billing tab set up the necessary information. So we're going to click on the billing tab here. And the main things I'm talking about is, first of all, the billing format code. All right, for our contingent cases, I would say 99% of the time, we're going to want a settlement statement format. This is a billing format that automatically comes with your system, so you want to make sure you choose this one. And we're going to talk more about the billing format in depth here in just a moment, but that's one of the three things on the screen we need to make sure we have set up. And I call this my billing triangle. Okay, it's not exactly a triangle, but it's the best I can do here. So we need the billing format code set to contingency. We need the billing mode set to contingency. And once you do that, you will see a box down below the word contingency where you enter the percentage of the award or settlement that the firm will be taking as their fee. Okay? I know if you're in New Jersey, things are a little bit different there in the way things are calculated, but we do have a specific billing format code for the New Jersey folks who do contingency billing, and that is NJ for New Jersey. Okay, so that is a little bit different because of the way the award and settlement are or I should say the amount of fees that are going to the firm from the award or settlement is calculated. So just to back up there for a second, if you're from New Jersey, you probably do things a little differently on your contingency cases. So here we have picked our percentage and typed that in. Yes, you can have decimal places. So if it's 33 point a third, you could type in that. Okay, I believe it only saves it to the second decimal place. But anyway, you've got that in there. And the other item here we want to make sure we have set up is the billing frequency. because most of us do these billings every, when you need to do it, you need to do it. It's not generally something you're going to print every month when you do all your other billing. So this allows us to kind of subdivide our database into here are contingent cases. They're going to be billed at the end of the matter versus other cases that will have a different billing frequency. So these three choices are what we want to make sure we have set up correctly. Okay? So that's the first thing. After that's finished, I do want to touch base on a couple of little items here. So I'm going to go back under my File menu, and I'm actually going to open up File, Setup, and come down to my client expense codes. All right. Now, doing contingency work, I'm sure you all are familiar with specific types of costs that are specifically for contingent cases. Abacus has a couple set up for you already. There are actually two. ME for medical expenses owed is what is called a letter of protection or a lien type cost. All right, so that's one of them that Abacus already has entered here in your list and marked it as an LOP. The other one that Abacus has in their system, in the system automatically, is the PHY for physician expenses owed. So it's medical expenses owed and physician expenses owed. And how are these different from all the other types of costs that are already, that are in your system, unless you've already played with this a little bit? These are considered letters of protection. And what that means is that all of the costs that are marked as such are going to appear in a separate section of your settlement statement. Okay? Of course, the award is first, then the attorney fees for the majority of us, and then our in-house cost, and then the section that contains these letters of protection. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't set up all you want to as far as LOPs go by adding specific ones in here. Abacus is just trying to keep it clean and easy by saying, okay, it's either a medical expense or a physician expense that's going to go in this section. But if you wanted to add a specific doctor, if you would, the game here is trying to keep our client expense codes unique from each other. So if it's Dr. Smith, okay, I could put that in here, and then this would come through straight to the bill with this name in it instead of under medical expenses owed or physician expenses owed. You could actually put in the individual doctor. You want to make sure you mark the box that says letter of protection. It is a hard cost, and you say done. That way, you will now have a third letter of protection that will go into that separate section on the settlement statement. The reason I don't push that a lot is just think of all the doctors you could have in your list here. And that might get a little crazy when you're specifically looking for one doctor's name and, month after month, you're adding more doctors to the list. It's going to get a little out of control. So if you could just use the two that are in here, that's great. Maybe you want to subdivide it into some more, distinctive areas, but maybe not all the way down to the doctor level. Okay. All right. So client expense codes are a little bit special for those LOPs for the contingent billing. And the last thing I'd like to make sure we look at here is the billing format code. So once again, under File, under Setup, coming all the way down to our billing format codes. Okay, here is my contingency settlement statement format. And as I mentioned before, there's a New Jersey contingency. And basically, just so everybody knows, because maybe other states are doing this as well, I believe what happens in New Jersey is they subtract the cost from the award and then calculate the attorney fees. Okay, so it's just in a little different order. So if you use the NJ, that's how the program will calculate your settlement statement. Otherwise, if you're, just a regular contingency where the award comes first and then the fees are calculated, the attorney fees, then you'll be using this one. But in either case, what I'm trying to get to, my point here is under edit, we're going to come in and take a look. Okay. First thing is this memo field. Okay. We may know about these 5 lines of message that shows underneath the dollar amount, the total of the bill. Okay. But what we're looking at here is the message to be able to, this isn't so much what we want to use. Perhaps we have some kind of verbiage that the client needs to sign off on to receive their funds. And if you have some sort of Word document, you want to take part of that and put it in here. You can just block copy it, put it in here, copy and paste. And this will then appear at the bottom of your bill. Something like, okay, Mr. Client, you agree that this is the payment you're receiving, the only payment, blah, 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 whatever your words are. Abacus has a sample that comes with the system, okay, that's in there. But if you want to take that out and put something else in, I would recommend you put it in the memo field. This looks little, but it really can take anything you put in there, okay? So you may want to augment your settlement statement by adding in some verbiage in your memo field. The second thing we want to make sure we have checked off here is this print settlement statements on contingent matters. It does not matter about time tickets, okay? Time tickets do not come through to a settlement statement, nor is there a trust section, okay? But what it does do is you have to make sure that particular option there is checked regarding printing settlement statements. That way the system understands this is a contingent case and please print the bill in that format. So that's the second thing in our billing format codes that I just want to make sure everybody is aware of. Okay, so far so good? All right, take a sip of water here. Okay, so as we're going along, you will be, some firms, and I recommend this, is actually they do keep their time on how much time is spent on the actual legal work for this case. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Actually, I think it's a good thing because then you will be able to see on your productivity reports how many hours were actually spent. Now, obviously, those time tickets don't show up on the settlement statement, but they will be in Abacus. So please don't be afraid of putting in your time in AbacusLaw and pushing that note forward or bill that note into the billing system because it's got to be over here for it to actually be calculated in your productivity reports. But productivity reports aren't just for flat fee and hourly cases. You also can have reports on your contingent cases because this is a lot of them are hourly reports, and it will show you how many hours you have spent doing this work. So I say enter your time no matter what kind of case you're working on so you can get extra benefits from these reports. All right, so besides entering your time, more than likely there are costs that you are advancing for your clients for their contingent matters. Okay, now we've got a couple different ways of entering costs depending on how much of Abacus you're actually using. If you're using the accounting side of the program, meaning you're just not using billing, but you're also using accounts payable, you will actually be writing checks for some of those costs, or at least entering those payables that you know need to be paid when the case comes to a closure. Okay, so some folks will use this AP. I'm going to start with the situations where you may not be using accounts payable. Maybe you're just using the system for billing purposes and we haven't ventured out into the accounting world yet and you write your checks somewhere else. Well, we still need to have all of those costs reflected on our settlement statement. So how do we get them in the system? Well, that is done through costs and adjustments. Okay, you could enter each and every cost through here. Okay, that's an option. Obviously, you're not getting a check processed when you put costs in through cost and adjustments. This simply takes the cost and dumps it into the matter billing activity for that specific contingent matter. So let's go in and have an example here. Okay, obviously this is a posting function, and if y'all have had any of the Abacus classes, you know about posting. And so we're going to come over and add something into the bucket. Obviously, our date comes first, then our matter, and we can look up our matters through our matter browse. There's Clara. Pull that one up. Now, what kind of expense is this? And let's say it was fax pages. So I'm going to come down here and choose facsimile charges. I have set this up so I have a cost per item. Say there was 26 of them. It does the math. Here's our description. And these 3 boxes are perfectly defaulted. Okay, it's all defaulting correctly. We're charging the client. It's a new cost I'm entering. And of course, this is not a write-off. And we save it. So your costs and adjustments are dumped into the buckets here, and you ultimately will post them after you've checked them, made sure everything's good. We post that. And now that has dumped out of the bucket and come over and attached itself to the appropriate matter billing activity. Okay, so we'll quickly open this up. I actually know my matter number because I've done this enough times today. So there we go. And we can see we've got all kinds of costs set up in here. I did a few before class, so you don't have to sit and watch me type. I'm really bad at that. But anyway, we've got different costs in here with their dollar amounts. They're obviously have not been billed yet, and we have our description. So that's everything we've got with a grand total up here. Obviously, this was without the fee being calculated yet or posted yet, because that happens when we process the bill. So now let's move over to an example where we are using the check writer. Okay? Well, if you are, it may be, check writer, AP, accounts payable. Now, if you physically are paying for it right now, you would more than likely use the demand check writer and fill out this screen. And this is an automatic check processor. The money is taken out of the operating account immediately. Looks like I need to get some new clients. I'm in the red bucket here. Anyway, if you are paying for the cost right now, you could fill out the screen, and that is a check process. But what a lot of folks are doing, I would think, is coming in and using what we call the 2-step check writer. This is actually putting in your payable. So what you may be doing is entering all your payables, but we will not be actually writing checks for these until that award or settlement has been decided and that money has been processed through trust, and we're taking that money and we're going to go pay our bills with it for our client. We would probably wait to do the second step of this 2-step check writer, but we definitely want to get our payables in here. Because if the payable's in the program and posted, it will show up on the settlement statement. It does not have to have been paid with a check number. Okay? So you want to make sure you go through the process of adding your payable. All right, whatever that might be, filling it out, making sure you charge the appropriate matter for it, for the appropriate type of expense, and posting that cost. So that then everything is sitting down here waiting for the check to be written when you are ready to actually process checks. Okay, we just want to get the cost on the bill and basically have all our work done. So when that award or settlement does come in, boom, 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 we can get in there and print all the checks we need to actually pay these particular invoices. Now, I've had people say, well, sometimes we negotiate a lower charge. Okay, the settlement came in at this amount. Dr. So-and-so, we are going to negotiate with you and credit or change the amount of that payable. Well, the fact that you've entered and posted it, they're in here in print AP checks, so they appear on the settlement statement. But if they do need to be changed, you can come in here and still edit them. Okay? So you would take the particular item and you would edit it up. Okay, this one I've split a few times, trying to do too many things at once. So you would not have split your invoice. But you would take that invoice and you could edit it and change the dollar amount. So if there is a price change on the invoice, you can do so in here. You don't have to delete it and start all over again. Okay? But getting them set up ahead of time is kind of a good thing sometimes because you get so much to do when it's time for that, all of that to happen at one time. it's good to have the work in the system. Okay, all right. So we have entered all of our costs, all right, and we are now ready to process our bills. Well, let's take a look at the pre-bill first. Okay, under billing, we'll come down to pre-bills. All right, we come in, and I would think the majority of the time we would be going straight to select bills individually. We're not going to process 20 bills at one time, I would not think. So we come over here and we go find our matter, okay, and put them in place. Okay, we want to make sure our bill covers the date of all of our costs, and we add to the billing run. Now, on a pre-bill for contingent cases in Abacus, it does not show the fee. Okay, we may not have gotten to that point yet. All right, so this is just a good way to make sure all the costs have been assigned to the matter. So when we do a preview, you will see, all right, it tells you that it's going to be billed on a contingent basis, so there is no fee on this bill. You know, the client never gets a pre-bill, but all the costs are here. So you do have a total of the cost, so you can kind of gauge where this is going. So that's a good thing to have. Basically, it's just going to total that up for you. Let's see if I can move this over. So you will see all the costs have been totaled up here, and obviously multiple pages if you have a whole lot of costs going on. So it's a good thing for reviewing purposes to make sure everything's been input. You know, whoever has to make sure that's been done, this is a good way to do it with the pre-bill. But a pre-bill is not going to calculate out the fee for the firm. Okay. To calculate the fee for the firm, what we're going to do is the actual bill. Okay, and we're going to come down, print bills. Same process as our pre-bills. Everybody, I'm sure, knows. Click on add. Same thing. Select bills individually and go get our matter. Okay, double click, puts them in place. Now, with contingent cases, more than likely, and I hate to ever say always or never because I'm always proven wrong, so more than likely, we're not going to have any trust transactions on this bill. Okay, trust in Abacus works differently when processing a bill that's for hourly and flat fee cases where it takes money out of trust and applies it against the bill. In this case, we're simply putting together our bill, and then we will go do our trust transactions. Okay, so over here, do not apply trust to bill. That's the way you should use the program to process contingent cases. So I'm going to add this to my billing run. This is where the screen will pop up. It knows it's a contingent matter, so it's asking, what is the award for this case? So now it will take whatever percentage I put on the matter maintenance billing tab and calculate it out. So let's say $1 million. Nice round number. Okay, I think that's $1 million. We'll know in a minute. Okay, and now let's go ahead and do a preview of our bill and see what happened. Oh, yeah, I've got other stuff in here. You know me, always got a bunch of stuff going on in my system, so that's fine. All right, so here is our settlement statement. It's going to have the firm's name and address up here, the client's name and address to the left, our invoice number and the date, then the fact it's a settlement statement, and here is our information. So the total funds received per the settlement order were $1 million. The attorney fees are the $333,330, and Abacus does round this way, okay? I would suggest you run it through Abacus and then take the money out of trust, okay, because it does not round to the 33 cents, as you can see. Then we have our incurred costs, meaning in-house costs. So those are listed here. And then we have our letters of protection. So I had a couple entered in there. Obviously, I was using my ME code and PHY code. So those are showing up here. It totals all of our costs together and subtracts the fees as well. And then total amount to the client is this remaining amount. and the words that Abacus uses automatically on their settlement statement is very simple here. That's why I'm saying if you have something from a Word document that you want to put in there, put it in the memo field on your billing format code, and that whole thing will come out on the printed page. All right. So, boy, that went really fast. That is the life of a contingent case. Obviously, after this is done and perfected and good to go, then we will post this bill. Okay, so billing, post bills. I got some others in here. Let's just take Clara and post. Okay, of course, it's checking on our posting date over here for productivity reports. Okay, now this is something a bit new. The total settlement amount on the matter is 0. Okay, because I have not calculated this bill before. It's asking, do I want to add this to my matter screen? So at any time I go back into my matter screen, I will know what the settlement amount was. I like it. I think it's a good thing because nowhere in the system, unless you're reading their matter billing, do you see what happened. So I would say yes to this. Okay, and that basically just posted that bill. And let's go see what it did. Let's go back to the matters. We go get Clara. Okay, and let's see where it put that. Okay, on the billing tab. Up here in the right-hand corner is the total settlement amount. Okay, so that does happen after you post the bill. Now, normally people then would go into trust, put in their trust deposit for the full amount of the award or settlement. All right, so if it was for Clara, I would put that in here. And this is where all your funds will be dispersed from. So you want to, put all the money in here and then start parsing it out as to, I can't think and type at the same time apparently. So this is the award. Okay, all your good details in here and done. So we post this trust deposit and then we can start writing our checks out of trust to pay the firm. All right, we'll probably pay the client first and then pay the firm for their fees and the dollar amount for all the costs. Okay, so we post this with the proper date, and now we can go write trust checks. Now, the only real thing here about trust is I would use this trust demand check writer to write checks out for this because it's a simpler check writer than setting them up as a trust check request and then going to the second step to do this. So if you can use this one, it's a very simple check writer. It will always make sure they have the money before it will process a check. You don't have to worry about the trust account even if you have multiple trust accounts because when you pick your client, it knows exactly which account the money's in. So you can see that changed it to the trust account that Clara's money is in. Okay? So now you just fill this out and write checks to whomever. One little side tip here is for the client. Okay? Obviously, we didn't set Clara up as a vendor. Okay? So do I have to go do that to write her a check? And hopefully you're following along with me if you've been using Abacus for AP, you know about setting up vendors. Well, Clara's in my system, obviously, because she's my client, but she is not a vendor, but I still need to write her a check. The way you can do that is come down here to the bottom, uncheck this little box, and now every single name in AbacusLaw will show up here. So I can find Clara, and I can use her to write a check to. Okay, so, all right, and it's got her name and address even because it pulled that over from AbacusLaw because it was in there. I just hadn't had her set up as vendor. So this will allow me now to write a check to her without having to use the miscellaneous code or any of that good stuff. Okay? All right, let's go to our questions and see if we have any questions here. Let's see. Where do you first enter the amount of the settlement? Okay. That's a very good question, and I haven't really stated it like in the straightforward words. Where do we enter the settlement? That's actually when you are processing the bill. Okay, the system does not see that up until that point. And then at that point, as we are coming in and processing the bill, let's see, so go back in and add. When you click on Add to Billing Run, that is when it's going to ask you. Okay, I already had it in here, so I got to get it out before that will work. But that is the time. Then when you post the bill, Abacus takes that dollar amount and puts it up on that matter screen on the billing tab so you have it forever and after. Okay, hopefully that answered your question. Okay, I'm still getting used to this question field. I never know if I'm missing any of the questions or not. Where did it go? Great. See, I've already made it disappear. Anyway, okay. Any other questions? Please put them in on the Go to Webinar tab, and that way I can see them, hopefully, and be able to answer them for you. And as I mentioned, if you're, in the middle of the night, you wake up and go, oh, I meant to ask that question. You always can submit questions through webinars at abacusnext.com. They'll make sure it goes to the proper person, and that we can then answer your webinar via email. Okay? Wow. Okay. I know I talk quickly. I'm sorry. It's just a habit I have, trying to get so much in a short amount of time. If there are no more questions, I certainly don't want to waste your time. So if there are no more questions, we're going to let you go. But remember, every week we have 2 webinars. They are on the Abacus Next website so that you know if you want to attend. And after that, obviously this is kind of quick, really. And if you want more time spent one-on-one, you also can sign up for a private session on the website under Schedule a Service at the very bottom of the web page. It's in little print, but Schedule a Service. And it takes you through all of the classes that we already have set up. But we also always want you to feel free to ask any questions you have in a session. We don't have to go by any written script. You can ask anything you please. Okay? All right, guys. Well, I hope this was helpful to you all. I hope it did answer some questions. And have a good afternoon. Oh, let's see. Was there another question? Is there a way to show more than one payment separated before the end of the matter? Okay. I'm thinking that maybe that means, what if we have processed the bill and then there comes another, it's going on further than that, and we are going to present another bill? The answer to your question is yes. Okay, so let's quickly touch on that. It doesn't happen too often, I don't think, but if it does, you still can use Abacus to process the next bill. What you would do is go back into your matter. Good question. No one's ever asked me this question before. Okay, so we go into the into the matter, go to the billing tab. Now, this is the most important little thing we're talking about right now, the most important item on the screen, because you can see non-hourly, meaning it's not an hourly case, so this is a contingent case, has been billed. Well, if we want to process another bill, we simply mark it unbilled, make sure our contingent percentage is correct, hit save, and you are now ready to go and process a second bill. Enter all the costs for that secondary time, and go in and process another bill where, when you put it to add to the billing run, it will ask you the award. So answer to your question is yes, you can. I've heard of that happening along the line somewhere. So thankfully, yes, you can. Okay. Let's see if I missed anything out. Are you able to show the checks written out to the client on the final bill? Okay, I have had this asked before. Since the checks are coming out of the trust account, what I can tell you is you can give the client a recap of what's happened in their trust account and perhaps attach that to their settlement statement. But the trust activity is not going to go over and show up on the bill or the matter billing activity itself. So the trust activity is kept separate, but you can always print this out. So for any particular matter, you can print out everything that went in and everything that came out, and maybe that will help answer, so let the client know where the money did go and what it did pay. So you just want to make sure you have paid the firm back for all the fees that are owed, and also for the costs that were owed from the firm. Looky there was good question. Okay, let's see if I can make this go down here. Okay, it looks like that was it. So thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you had questions, and I'm here for any others. So thank you all very much for attending today, and hope to see you soon in another Abacus Billing webinar. All right, guys? Thank you all. Bye-bye.